welcome back to Rams Up, your favorite LA Rams podcast. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow us on our YouTube channel as well at LA Rams Up. I'm your host, Mark. I'll be joined occasionally by my football gurus, Paul and Ian. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, Mark from Rams Up here. We're going to have our post-game reaction. The first half here, Paul and I have a short discussion about this disappointing performance by our Rams at SoFi against the Philadelphia Eagles, falling 37-20. And then Ian, unable to join us tonight. He's got a darn good excuse. He was representing at SoFi. I'll wrap things up solo at the end here. So, Paul, that was quite the car wreck from the Rams' perspective at SoFi Stadium tonight. That was not what we were hoping for, not what we expected. But given the various failures of this Rams team in this game, I guess we really can't be too surprised. We said we wanted them, they needed to limit Saquon Barkley. That did not happen. And, well, we'll start there. Did we just overestimate where our Rams defense is, or did we just underestimate what this Eagles offense is capable of?
No, I think everybody knew. The Rams haven't been stellar on defense all year. They came in ranked 22nd in total defense. I think 23rd against the pass. I think they were like 19th against the rush. They haven't played defense all year. You know, we talked about this. They've given up 20 or more points in every game except one. So that part's been consistent. And we said that. I'm just baffled. I don't even know what the defensive game plan was tonight. I mean, anybody who watched the game, feel free to add into the comments. Maybe there's something I missed. I have no idea what the defensive game plan was. They should have, whatever they had to do, the goal of today's game plan should have been stop Saquon Barkley, right? Whatever you have to do. And I don't even know some of the looks that, I'm speechless. I don't even, I'm going to go back to what I said at the round table. I said, the defensive staff is whoever you want to point out, particularly in that staff, they're overmatched. They need to bring in a little bit of help just to get everything organized. This is another game.
And this is probably the type of offense that the Rams just don't match up very well with. Maybe we need a guy like Ernest Jones in a game like this. Maybe we need a better run-stopping defensive tackle or two. I don't know. But, this game started out, the Rams are moving the ball. Then they have the fumble. They hold the Eagles to a couple of field goals. And then, our defense actually, or both units played fairly well in the first quarter. Then the second quarter, 3 straight 3-and-outs. And that's when the game started to get away from us. And the second half, just forget it. It was the Eagles were off to the races. So credit to them. I think they are, as the announcers were alluding to, certainly a threat to go to the Super Bowl and potentially win it if they can get through the Lions in the NFC. So got to be those two teams right now after what we saw tonight, because the Rams aren't a horrible football team.
Not at all.
They have definitely had some pretty big chinks in their armor, but there was as my special assistant pointed out during the game, you can beat a team like the Seahawks by fumbling at their own 12-yard line and missing a field goal. But teams like this, you can't. And then Saquon Barkley, that was something else. Now, I have an admission to make here. I completely forgot to bench him on my fantasy football team. And I realized about halfway through, I be honest, I had no intention of doing that, but about late in the third quarter, actually it was after that second 70-yard run, I realized, oh heck, let me check my fantasy football score, and I think he put up 44 points for me or something like that. So that eases the pain a little bit, but still not a fun night of football.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more at the roundtable. There's a lot to point out. But the bottom line was, we said it, physicality. Could they match up to the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of the physicality part of it? They did it in spurts, but they could not do it for the entire game. That was the bottom line, right? Um, and then, on the offensive side of it, they couldn't, stand up to the physicality of the Eagles in terms of the pass rush. They definitely had the advantage. The secondary of the Eagles was definitely there and was susceptible to the pass. But their offense has been like this all season. It's been very disjointed. And
Right.
the tight end situation is just at this point it can only be described as like a black hole. There's just nothing there. They can get. Parkinson did have that one play where he finished strong, but other than that, he was getting blown up in the blocking game all night. And Davis Allen just looks completely disconnected from the passing game. So there's definitely something. The running game couldn't get going. The running game had spurts, but just could not. They couldn't establish anything for the duration of the game.
And we'll get into the second half of this post-game reaction. Ian not able to join us tonight. He is on his way back from SoFi. Probably not a happy camper. Paul checked out. He's 3 hours ahead of us, remember, on the East Coast. So I'll try to wrap things up here real quickly. And it really comes down to, well, let's just look at this. This is not a good look for our Rams defense. For those of you listening on the podcast, what I'm displaying here is a list of the NFL's single game rushing leaders. Saquon Barkley locking down number 9 all time with those 255 yards tonight. You don't ever want to see your defense in the record books like this, and that's right, number 9 on this list. And that pretty much says it all. We talked about the keys to the game, and the number 1 was limiting Saquon Barkley. But you look at how this game unfolded in the first quarter. Rams drive down the field, fumble, and then the defense holds the Eagles to 2 field goals through the first quarter and early into the second. Rams add a touchdown, so they're actually winning. And then the offense just pretty much folded after that. 3 possessions in the second quarter, 9 plays, 3 punts, and then they come out in the second. They got the late touchdown to A.J. Brown. That was a big play as well at the end of the first half. And then the second half, Rams need to get a stop, right? Well, not happening. 70 yards and a touchdown for Saquon Barkley, and it was all kind of downhill after that. Kyren Williams actually had a good night, aside from the fumble. Rams passing game really never got going. Protection issues, which surprised me because this is not an Eagle team that gets pressure a lot. They do get some sacks, but they probably had the best pressure they've had all year. Which and I haven't watched all of their games, obviously, but statistically, they do not bring pressure at a high rate. They don't blitz a lot, and they didn't tonight, but they were in Matthew Stafford's face all night, it seemed like. Time of possession is really what hurt us as well. Long drives by the Eagles, and those three and outs in the second quarter really tilted the playing field as far as time of possession goes, especially. So I wanted to talk about. I'll throw up the NFC standings here. It's maybe make you feel all a little bit better. But I wanted to, instead of rehashing what obviously went wrong in this game, there were a lot of things that went wrong. I'm going to give you some takeaways, and a lot of them are not good. What are my takeaways from this game? Well, Chris Collinsworth touched on something that I had been considering, and maybe I just didn't want to admit it out loud. But having a pocket passer, an immobile pocket passer like Matthew Stafford, that the advantage of that type of quarterback is maybe diminished in the modern NFL. And we saw it tonight. His limitations, he did have one of his best run of the year. But that aside, it's obvious the issues that a quarterback like Jalen Hurts presents for a defense, as opposed to a quarterback like Matthew Stafford. If things do break down, if the offensive line is getting bested like they did in this game, you got to wonder if the moving forward, if Sean McVay, when he does move on to his next quarterback, maybe he will flex to a more mobile quarterback. My second takeaway is yes, we have a problem at kicker, and it's a problem that just won't go away ever since Matthew Gay left. And I had high hopes Cardi was going to be the guy. And, maybe he still will turn out to be, but, we're rolling into New Orleans and I don't know, the entire division is struggling. So I wouldn't say it's a must win game because the entire division could turn around and lose again next week. We're rolling Joshua Cardi out there for a critical kick. I don't know, man. I'm not going to feel good about that. But we're going to have to ride with him. We're going to have to ride this season out. The third takeaway is, the offensive line obviously struggled, but what's up with Steve Avila? Where is the 2023 version of our left guard? I don't know if he's playing poorly, but he was kicking butt last year, and I haven't seen it this year in the 2 games he's been back. Now, I'll see what Ian and Paul have to say about his how he performed, and we'll see the Pro Football Focus grades. Although I value Ian and Paul's tape review more than Pro Football Focus at this point because I've seen some really screwy grades coming across on Rams players all year long. We love them when they're great, but sometimes they're really questionable as well. And my fourth takeaway is I love Kyron Williams. I love him to death. I just love when he goes into beast mode like he did in the first quarter of this game. But the fumbles, man, maybe it's time to spell him with Blake Corum. Hey, let's roll with Blake Corum a few series, especially after a fumble like that. We always some of us question why a great player gets benched because of one bad play, but this is more than one bad play. Kyron obviously has fumbleitis. And if Blake Corum is supposed to be Kyron Williams version 2, let's roll him out there and see what happens. I'm not saying bench Williams entirely, completely, but I'd like to roll with Blake Corum a little bit more, especially at the end of the game. We'll get to that in a second. My fifth takeaway is our tight ends are just kind of a liability, right? They're adding very little to this offense. Colby Parkinson had one nice play. He had the touchdown last week, but I don't know. I just don't see it. And maybe Tyler Higbee is going to be coming back soon because Tyler Higbee, when the day he is 90%, he's our best tight end. That's all I'm going to say about that. Maybe we go draft a tight end next year. And by the way, speaking of that, go take a look at my poll that's coming out. Got a fun poll coming out regarding our next top draft pick in the 2025 draft that comes out, I think, Tuesday morning. So take a look at that. What's my next takeaway? Hey, the refs had a bad night. They had a bad night, and I'm not blaming this loss on the refs, not at all. Actually, they probably helped us more than they hurt us. Those 2 pass interference calls were questionable, especially the first one. The second one, I think the DB was leaning on Puka quite a bit there, riding him into the end zone. Probably still shouldn't have been called, but it wasn't as bad as the first one. And that offsetting penalty where they called was it Landon Dickerson? I think it was for a personal foul, unnecessary roughness, whatever it was, for the gentle shove of, I think it was Jared Verse. I didn't see that one either. And then that situation where they let the Eagles change their mind as far as declining the penalty, that was a little odd. So not a good night. And again, I'm not blaming the refs for this loss, not at all. This loss goes entirely on a bunch of Rams, a bunch of units, mostly the trenches, I think. And maybe our coaching staff, definitely our coaching staff, as Paul said in the first part of this, if your game plan has to be to slow down Saquon Barkley, complete failure. What's my next takeaway? Can we just get to the NFC Championship game at this point? We can let the Eagles and Lions go at it. I'm pretty impressed. If the Eagles keep this up, Lions keep it up, they are on a collision course for the NFC Championship game. Hey, holding out hope here. The Rams get things squared away and make a run. But man, with the personnel they have now, I like it moving forward long term. Can they get it done this year against a good offensive team, against a team that really gets after the quarterback on defense? I don't know, man. Starting to really question that. Eternal optimist here, though. Still think the Rams are going to make a playoff run. And what's next? Well, I already mentioned the game plan, the defensive game plan that did. It wasn't evident to me what it was. Um, I think going light with the three outside linebackers. I'm not sure how much they did that. Maybe that was a bad play against this offense, but maybe they have no choice. Um, you're going to run Jake Hummel out there a little bit to help Christian Roseboom and Omar Spates. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but whatever the plan was, it didn't work. And let's see what else. At the end of the game, the Rams have a really big game next week in New Orleans. And we just want to go in there healthy, and it looks like we will, but we really put some things at risk there at the end there. Matthew Stafford dropping back, throwing passes to Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, two guys that have been dinged up a lot during their careers. And I mean, I guess, yeah, sure, we still had a shot, but how realistic was it? I don't know whose call that was. I would have much rather seen Jimmy G or even Stetson Bennett. Was he active? Probably wasn't. See one of those guys out there with Blake Corum and Xavier Smith and Jordan Whittington. Haven't seen him in forever. Let those guys, let them run out there, run some plays, keep our guys safe. No reason to put them at risk that late in the game. That's how I felt about it. So, pretty painful game. Just ran into a buzzsaw there. Credit to the Eagles. I think we have a better understanding of where they are and where the Rams are. But can the Rams still win this NFC West? Absolutely, because all of these teams are really flawed. You just need to steal a win here or there and maybe sweep the remaining NFC West games, which I think they can. But they got to play better than they did tonight at SoFi. That is for sure. So we'll be back Wednesday. Ian and Paul will be joining me, and we'll get into it a lot better than we did tonight. It's really tough for Ian to join when he's at the game, and Paul a late night, a 5:20 game starting at 8:20 on the East Coast on a Sunday night. That's a tough ask. So we'll get back to it Wednesday night out here from Rams Up. That's going to do it for this episode. Remember, you can reach us at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Our handle is at laramsup.com. Till next time, keep the horns up, stay safe, and have fun out there.